Santa Cruz 90.7 FM and KSQD.org. Stay tuned for the kooky side of crazy. But first,
KSQD thanks the Santa Cruz Public Libraries and the Homeless Garden Project, who will hold a job and services resource fair April 23rd from noon to 4 p.m. at Laurel Park behind London Nelson Center in Santa Cruz. This free event brings together local service providers who help people overcome barriers to get jobs and housing. For more information, santacruzpl.org or 831-427-7713.
The views and opinions expressed in this program do not necessarily represent those of Natural Bridges Media or KSQD's staff, volunteers, or underwriters.
Welcome to all you kooky listeners to this special holiday edition of The Kooky Side of Crazy. Yes, it's that time of year again. No, not Easter. However, the tie-dye will help you with your attire and the candy for your munchies. And unlike other holidays, prepping for this one will actually ease your anxiety, not cause it. Yes, my friends, we are tiptoeing our way to 420, a holiday that is actually larger than Easter in Santa Cruz. I'm flashing back to the Beatles right now, probably high, declaring they were bigger than Jesus. Needless to say, I am a minister in my spare time, but I'll leave that for Sunday because today I have two resident experts from the new Hook Cannabis outlet here, and we're going to be diving in with a discussion on self-medication. So stay tuned if you want to laugh a little at your lunacy, if you want to embrace an hour of which we don't have to stick our crazy in the closet. Yes, stay tuned if you want to help destigmatize mental health. And or if you simply want to talk a little Mary Jane leading up to a holiday weekend of Easter baskets and bongs while wearing tie-dye tees and eating tie-dye eggs. This is the kooky side of crazy.
The kooky little coconut moved to the island. The kooky little coconut left the pretty palm tree. She built a little tiki hut down by the ocean, where the kooky little coconut raised her kooky family. And the kooky little coconut children played around in the sand. Two like to swim in the ocean, four like to dance on the land. Six played with the papayas that live by the ocean too. And every morning when the sun came up, they went to see the monkeys at the zoo. The kooky little coconut moved to the island. The kooky little coconut.
All right, we're back, and you're listening to K-Squid 90.7, and this is the kooky side of crazy. I am here with my new best friends, Stephanie and Jurij, and we're going to be diving in with a topic that is probably close to a lot of people's hearts, especially coming off of 2 years of difficulty finding a doctor, and that's self-medication. So this duo is part of the new cannabis dispensary outlet, The Hook, and we'll have you guys talk a little bit further about that. But for those of you that this is your first time listening to the kooky side of crazy, this is an experience, it's kind of about normalizing mental health and realizing that functional people go through some dysfunctional times, and we're allowed to laugh at it. So to start off, and I want to kind of ask you guys a little bit of a fun question to start this off. But Jurij and Stephanie, what is your first memory of marijuana?
Wow.
Or what is the first time that you don't remember something because of marijuana?
Oh, wow. That's even... Wow.
Yeah. Well, mine came first as I am much older than you, Jurij.
And this is Stephanie.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Stephanie. Happy holidays, everyone. My first memory of smoking weed was behind a 7-Eleven out of a squirt can that we had poked a bunch of holes in with a bag of weed that pretty much just looked like oregano. It could have been, for all I know.
Oh, no.
But yeah, that was back in 1993.
Which was a few years before I was born.
Oh, geez.
And then 17 years after that, I went on a trip to Disney World in Florida. And my friends and I drove down. And I asked them one specific thing, because I was very much not into, like, psychedelics and drugs at the time. I was like, please don't bring weed. And then we get there, and he pulls it out of a deodorant thing. He pulls the deodorant out, pulls the weed out, and I'm like, we're at Disney. And so I did it outside of Radisson Hotel.
Oh, man.
And, yeah, here we are.
Was it extra magical after that?
Yeah.
I ate a whole pizza, so yeah, I felt very magical inside and outside.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, did you get to go interact with Mickey and Pluto and the gang?
No, unfortunately, it was at night, like after we went to Disney, so it was like even kind of more lame for me, because I was like, we could have done this like before. They pulled it out at like 11 p.m. But it's okay, because it had like the Radisson had a cool movie screen. They were playing Disney movies, so it was like we're near Disney watching Disney movies. And we were high, so, you know, it kind of like felt like
flows.
we were there. Yeah, it was like we were inside Disney.
Everything. No, that's perfect. Mine is so much less extravagant than that, actually. My buddies and I, we gotten so excited that we actually found a bag of this stuff. And we were pretty elementary at the time. And, like, one of them just started chewing it because he heard that you could eat marijuana. Didn't work too well for him. And then I tried it, and I fell asleep like 10 minutes later and woke up the next day and was like, well, shoot, that was a waste of money. But yeah, so we wanted to dive in, and I'm going to open it up throughout the show to callers. So if you guys want to call in, it's 831-900-5773. But now that we've kind of gotten that initial out of the way, tell us a tiny bit about yourself and your professional entry into cannabis.
Sure. I actually started in the pharmaceutical world. I spent 5 years counting pills in a pharmacy. It was known as Longs back then. And decided I really didn't like pharmaceuticals and the way that this country treated medicine. You know, it's like, here's some pills for your side effects, and here's some pills for those, and so on. So I got out of that and went down biology. Long story short, I ended up in the cannabis world, and I've been selling weed in town for quite a while, since before legalization. Made it through all that drama, and now I am the boss of the Hook Outlet.
Yeah, that's awesome. And there were some organizations before it became legal. I know there was a Veterans Alliance that's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, the Vets Alliance is still around. Most of the clubs that were around that you knew from medical days are, you know, they made it through legalization. And the Vets Alliance is still operating out in, I don't know where they moved, actually.
Yeah, there.
Aptos?
That sounds right. We'll go with Aptos.
Anyways,
You say it with confidence and nobody will ever question you.
Yeah.
That's
In fact, yeah, go to Aptos.
All vets on their way to Aptos right now. Pack up, go. Well, no, that's great. And just out of curiosity, now that it is legal and it's looked at in such a way of, well, medicine, what's the difference in atmosphere when you're counting pills for somebody and handing out prescriptions behind a glass box versus like measuring out some marijuana and dosing it for somebody, well, also behind a glass wall oftentimes?
You know, it's a lot the same. It's a lot of just listening to people vent at you. You know, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. You're kind of like bartender / counselor / pharmacist. There are definitely a lot of different laws between the two, but I would say that there's equal amounts of regulation that you have to deal with in each industry.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, cool. We'll get back into some of that. But Jurij, what about you, man? How do you get plugged in with the whole...
It's an interesting story because I really don't have... I'm very new to the industry, so I kind of just got in here like 9 months ago or so. And I came from New Jersey, I drove across the country with my friend. We put all my stuff in a car, came here with a dream and a film degree. And I was looking into like social media, like management and marketing, and I stumbled upon, this application for the Hook outlet. And I submitted a video explaining who I was, how I've been holding a camera since I was, 3 years old, and how I love taking pretty pictures of things, especially if I can take pictures of cannabis. That's amazing. Because coming from a state like New Jersey where it was very much illegal, it's now legalized, but right after I left, of course, but where you didn't want to take pictures of what you were smoking or that you were smoking anything at all because it felt so wrong and illegal, and if my parents found out, that's a whole other situation. So, but now they know, so it's all good.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, my lovely mom, I remember, and for those of you that listened to that episode of my mom and my interview, that was a trip. But yeah, one of the first experiences I had of a dispensary was when my mom came to visit, and she wanted to go to the dispensary. So it turned into a little bit of a tradition. So we also get tattoos together. So I've got a special mom.
That's awesome. That's cute.
But so that being said too is, I guess what I've found out in unfortunate ways is the stuff that I first smoked and y'all probably first smoked. And by the way, I moved here from Kentucky, not quite Jersey, but I can say y'all and reckon. Was not the same as the stuff that is in the shop now.
I would probably agree with that.
Yeah, this stuff seems to be a little bit stronger.
Oh yeah, way different, and it comes in like cool packaging too, which is even more. It's not just like a plastic bag. It's like it's got pretty pictures and everything on it, and you're like, this is an experience, really.
And a whole set of new ways to put it in you somehow. Like it's not just smoking anymore. You could slap it on your skin. You could drink it. You could eat it. You could boof it. You can,
Yeah.
Boof.
Suppository. Sorry, that is.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad you described that to me.
I'm sorry.
I can't imagine wanting it enough that welcome to the Kooky side of crazy. This is what it's all about. I can't imagine. Because I kind of like the taste. We'll leave that one. We'll leave that one for a future discussion. But yeah. So the stuff back. Like way back in the 60s and whatnot, when people were going to the Dead shows and just hanging. Was that still the same, like different strands, like your indicas, your sativas,
all those strains have been blended, mixed, remixed, back mixed, forward mixed. They still sort of exist, but I doubt it's the same as they were smoking back in the 60s, which is unfortunate. They had a little more land race, what would have developed in different parts of the world. And then when you crossbreed all that stuff, you end up with, we have so many different strains now.
Yeah. Okay, so this is my stupid question of the day, but it actually comes with a funny story. So like I said, I'm a minister, and we were doing some work around farming and homelessness and etc. So we started making these garden plots at local churches. And one particular mega church in town, I won't say the name, gave us a little garden plot. So I had one of our homeless individuals go back and start tending it and so forth. And I got a call from the church a couple weeks later, and I had to go down and explain 17 pot plants that were growing outside of an evangelical Christian church's preschool. But as gullible as I was, and I'm gonna hand it off to you because I'm still a little shaky on it. To this day, he swears that those were CBD plants and not marijuana plants. Are those different?
Well, yeah. There are CBD-rich strains, and there's also hemp, right? So either way, I don't think it's legal to grow that by a school in a church lot, but he could have been telling the truth.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So dialogue with that, since that's an open door. And I think that's one of the big things when you're talking medical marijuana is like this whole CBD THC thing. So explain a little of that, because there's ratios, there's...
Oh, okay. Big topic. THC is the component in cannabis that gets you high, and CBD is another cannabinoid that doesn't necessarily make you feel high, but it increases your feeling of well-being. And I think it's actually really useful for a broader audience, especially if you don't use cannabis at all, because it's going to be manageable. You're just going to feel good, and it has a lot of the benefits that THC can give you, and different ones, without making you high, which is scary for people.
But that's why they make the ratios too, because if you want to like experiment with some THC, you want some psychedelic effects. Yeah, you can even inch your way up, maybe. Because some people has much stronger effect on certain people than others, depending on who you are.
Yeah, and that's where it's a very strong effect on me, and that's and I don't even know if maybe metabolic systems change over time, because I used to be able to do that as a kid, and nowadays I accidentally took a puff of some guy's. I thought it was just a normal vape pen. I didn't think they made it's a wax vape pen. And I had no clue. And as soon as I tasted it, it was like, oh, this is gonna not go well.
Yeah.
And right then, just panic attack, way into my own head. And I've talked to a couple other people too that are like, marijuana makes me panic. Which is frustrating, because I would love to be able to self-medicate in a way that calmed me down instead of, revved me up and put me over the edge.
Well, I think starting with ratios, where you're mostly CBD and a little bit of THC and maybe eking your way up, or also realizing that there might be different times a day where you might go for that mostly CBD product, or, maybe you want to try a little bit of indica in the evening because, you're home, you're comfortable, you got your food, your couch, you could just relax.
Into couch?
Into couch.
Yes.
Couch.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. But yeah, have you run into that with different people, or is because there's the hybrid ones now too.
Mm-hmm.
So say I walked into your shop, and I'll kind of let you diagnose me. So somebody that's got a lot of anxiety and very introspective anyway, so I don't need to go too deep into my own head. But I love creativity. So where would you kind of direct me? And two, looking at is it an edible? Is it a tincture? Is it a something you smoke? So pretend I'm completely new, which I basically am. And yeah, what do you got for me?
I would recommend a tincture. I like tinctures because they are, you drop it in your mouth and you're going to hold it there under your tongue. It's very vascular. The effects are pretty immediate, so you're not going to run into that nothing's happening. Well, maybe I'll eat a little bit more, and then it's too late because you can't eat less, right? And I think starting with a 20-to-1 ratio, it's a pretty common ratio you can find in stores where it's 20 molecules of CBD for every 1 of THC, so it's just a little bit, right? And I heard you say, creativity, but unfortunately that would normally be more towards the sativa side, which if you're prone to panic attacks, I would avoid starting there. You can end there as you get comfortable with it, right? But indica is going to be more calming. It doesn't get your brain amped up and going. I love that personally, but that's also where the panic attack comes in, because your brain can't stop at that point, right?
Yeah, you have to know your limits, kind of.
Yeah.
But you're right. You can kind of test the waters and begin to understand, because I too had I would stick to mostly indica leaning strains, and but slowly I started trying sativa, and sometimes when I would do it, I would, how I call it, geek out, and I get kind of shaky and panic attacky, heart pounding really quickly. But over time, as I've tried different hybrids, sativa leaning towards the middle, and that's a little bit better for me, I realize. And so there's a lot more options in that regard.
Yeah, well, and even looking at the pharmaceutical thing, it's I remember when I first jumped on an SSRI, serotonin uptake, and it made me more anxious for the first month, but once it started balancing my system and you become kind of attuned to it, then yeah, it kind of regulates. So, well, real fast, you're listening to KSQD 90.7 FM, and I'm here with Stephanie and Jurij from the dispensary, or from the Hook outlet here in Santa Cruz and Watsonville. And yeah, so we're talking about medical marijuana and self-medicating. So yeah, I guess that's a good call. So maybe like start inching your way up, introducing different things. So what's a good baby formula to start with?
20 to 1 is really common, but we have a 40 to 1 tincture, 40 CBDs for every 1 THC. So you could imagine that little bit of THC. It's really good to have them together because they are synergistic, and you can bump that ratio closer to 1 to 1. It's my favorite ratio personally. Over time. Yeah, start small. And that's why I like the tincture because, it's not like, here's a gummy. I mean, you can cut the gummy in half or a quarter or whatever, but the tincture, you can do a drop, you can do the whole thing, you could do several droppers. Before I got here, having extreme anxiety, did about 3 droppers of tincture of a 20 to 1 ratio because I have a fear of public speaking.
And you look so happy and peaceful right now.
I'm feeling a lot better than I was an hour ago. For real. Yeah.
It works.
Yeah. It works.
Yeah, no, I was known to do Irish coffee in the morning before I had to do big speaking things. That's a good one too. Okay, so our other self-medicator that's legal is alcohol. How would you compare self-medicating alcohol versus marijuana? We're going to do a little we'll flat out say it. Which is better?
Should we say it at the same time or?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, ready?
THC.
Oh, cannabis.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
THC.
I thought you were going to say marijuana, and I was like, I can't say
No,
that word.
cannabis.
We don't like that word, marijuana.
No.
We use cannabis. Yeah.
Weed.
Cannabis.
Weed.
Yes.
Not alcohol.
It is. Well, and that's the problem too, is a lot of people are mixing them.
It is.
Oh,
I
that
feel
got
like when I was in
aside.
college, I would hear like a girl on the bus saying, I was so cross-faded. I was like, what does cross-faded mean? I'm like, oh, they're like mixing alcohol, weed, and whatever. I'm like, yeah. It can get kind of like dangerous and intense sometimes if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm. They intensify each other. And yeah, alcohol is addictive. So regardless if it works for you, self-medicating, it has a lot of negative side effects that cannabis does not have.
Yeah. So
Right.
on the other side of that too is, and the disclaimer, just so we get the responsibility factor in this, I actually do co-manage a sobriety house. So I walk very gracefully, and I love looking at intention. And I think it's so important. So what we're dialoguing right now really is that intention, and also the danger of it. So alcohol, it's very easy to get alcohol poisoning. You can very easily die from alcohol. You can, like, any number of things.
It's very painful.
Yeah, it's just, and it
Super
does, that addictive factor of it. But at the same time, and I've heard the rumors, you can't get addicted to marijuana. Or cannabis. I'm not supposed to say that word. You can't get addicted to cannabis. And the other one, I guess, is, can you overdose on cannabis?
You can make yourself uncomfortably high, right? But you're not going to die. You're not going to get cannabis poisoning. If you pretty much just sleep it off, you might be groggy the next day, but you'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've had instances where if I've taken like way too much, I've even like vomited just to like get out something. Just like it feels like there's an anxiety in my gut. And just get it out. So yeah, sometimes you can really overdo it, but you won't die. Like,
yeah, because it's not like alcohol. You wouldn't go get your stomach pumped. It's
No.
but that is, that's a really real question. I know I'm on the University of Santa Cruz Interfaith Council, and we had a really interesting conversation a little while back about the effects of edibles, because people can, it's easier than spiking somebody's drink to just give them a whole bunch of gummies or so forth, and kind of like you were saying, it's like those don't kick in immediately. So you have somebody that's at a party and they're like, oh, a bag of gummies. Like, your typical response with those little bags is like, oh, this is a single sermon of gummies. Yeah. So yeah, there's a big danger to it.
Yeah, and there could be anything, like, if you don't know, it could be anywhere from 5 milligrams, which is like starting point, to 100 milligrams, which is like, experienced stoner level.
Definitely. So, like with the shop and whatnot, I mean, like, how do you kind of instruct people to, like, do you help people out if they were coming in and just like this is, I want to try this. What do I do? Yeah, how much do I take? Like,
yeah, we always recommend. Well, I go to the tinctures first, just because it is so easy to dial in that dose. But if someone's set on having an edible, 2.5 milligrams, 5 milligrams, the typical standard dose for a beginner, they recommend like 5 to 10. But I always say start at 2.5 because you can always take more. Yeah.
And they have drinks now
drinks,
too, which is cool because you can like dose those out like milligram by milligram. And they even have like cool measurements on the side of the bottles and packaging, so you can like really keep track of it.
Right, and see, that's another plus over alcohol. Alcohol dehydrates you. You can say, cannabis hydrates you. So we'll just keep checking out. If we could get electrolytes in it too, that would be really good.
I'm sure someday, probably soon.
Yeah, some fruit juice electrolytes. Yeah, Gator.
Yeah, Gatorade will get into it. See what happens.
Yeah. We need a little emergency packet, but like with THC in it.
They have those like drink powder packets, kind of.
Right,
so they're
they
getting
do.
there.
Oh my gosh.
They're almost there.
Oh my god, yeah. Kool-Aid.
Wow.
It is cool.
Super Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid will make you feel really strong.
Oh gosh.
Great.
Well, so super Kool-Aiding. What are the craziest products that you're seeing in the market right now? Maybe you have at the shop, or like what are they starting to get kind of wild, or is there a lot of regulation around?
The dosing is the big regulation, edibles, we used to have way crazier edibles in medical days. You'd have like the 1,000 milligram bar. It's like, well, that doesn't exist. They're all in 100 milligram packages, with biggest size being a 10 milligram piece. So those got kind of boring. But, I did mention suppositories earlier. I wasn't kidding. We don't sell them in the shop, but they are available, and they actually... as far as a medical product goes, it bypasses your stomach. If you're having nausea from like chemo or something, you're not going to throw it up. If you maybe had cancer, colon cancer, you're getting it as close to the source as possible.
Interesting. Well, okay, so then that opens up too. So we were talking mental health for a little while. Like, the show is a lot focused on mental health. But yeah, you just alluded to kind of another big self-medication component of cannabis. And that's physical health.
I think physical health and mental health are really hand in hand. A lot of people, if you have chronic pain, that can lead to depression, anxiety, panic attacks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there's a variety of ways, because I've seen like the CBD rubs. That kind of side of things. And then, it's been used for cancer stuff for quite a while. And I've talked to several people that are adamant that not just for pain tolerance, but that it actually killed their cancer cells. And I don't know what kind of validity there is for that, but...
Well, I've heard a lot of stories, including some from manufacturers who say, I had a skin cancer. I started applying this balm to it several times a day, and I cured it. And, maybe there needs to be more science behind it, because there's so many people out there with these stories, right? Whether it helped them with cancer or mental health, and we need to be able to look at it to grow from it, instead of just saying, oh, it's a drug. It's not useful to anybody.
And that's why legalization's been good, because there's been more resources, more research being done. But until it gets to that like national scale, it's going to be harder to really understand what the effects are, and the black market will just be able to prevail more.
Yeah, definitely. So I was also, I guess a couple of weeks ago, we had one on psychedelics and looking at maps and whatnot. What are your predictions on the legalization of psychedelics for...
I feel like that is coming, and as a nation, we've been more open to it than considering cannabis as a medical tool. I personally really hope so. I think the future would be instead of going for that SSRI, we're going to microdose on psilocybin, right?
Yeah.
And then use the CBD or THC for those breakthrough things when we might go for the Xanax. Yeah.
And I think that's, you mentioning intention is a good point, because it kind of comes back to that. Like, the assumed intention is that we're, like, on the black market is that it's rogue and it's bad, but, like, really people just want medicine.
Yeah, no, so true. Well, we're going to jump in with a quick song break. You're listening to KSQD 90.7 FM, and we're talking self-medication with The Hook Cannabis Outlet. This is one of my favorite songs about cannabis responsibility. So this is Toby Keith singing about his interactions with our favorite Willie Nelson.
That was Toby Keith, Weed with Willie. Right here on KSQD. This is KSQD Santa Cruz 90.7 FM and KSQD.org. The program is The Kooky Side of Crazy. Ryan Althaus is your host. We'll be right back with him. First, a look at a program upcoming tomorrow, Friday at 3. We have Unheard Voices here on KSQD. And this week, Gloria Nieto takes a look at the history of diversity, representation, and racism in surf and beach culture. Her guests are Isabella Bonner, the founder and director of Black Surf Santa Cruz, and Dave Krellin, an educator and artist who has studied the history of surfing. So we invite you to join us for their conversation on Unheard Voices Friday afternoon at 3, right here on KSQD 90.7 FM and KSQD.org. And now back to Ryan Althaus and the Kooky Side of Crazy and their discussion of medical and other uses of cannabis.
I love it. Well, thank you, Howard. So, coming off of that song, 2 questions. Would you smoke weed with Willie Nelson?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
100%. Yeah.
You guys are gutsier than I. And the second one, if you could smoke weed with any person dead or alive, who would it be?
Wow.
That's
such a
there's
big
so many
question.
ways you could go with that.
Gosh.
Like,
Well, I think I'd have to vote for smoking weed with Dennis Perrone, the author of the medical marijuana Prop 215. He's
Wow.
passed since then. He died of lung cancer, but I would like to smoke a joint with him and say thank you.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. Now we know we have a true canon nerd.
Oh, wow. I feel much less excited about my answer now. It's just more generic, but, like, probably Snoop Dogg, just because, like, I'm, like, Zoomer over here, so, like, da-da-da-da-da, some other, D-O-double-G.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'd love to sit down and he'd be like, yeah, we'll talk about life. I'd learn the real Snoop Dogg, behind the veil,
Ooh, very nice.
behind the blunt even.
No, I'm liking that. As a minister, I'm gonna say, like, the Pope, man. I want to smoke weed with the Pope.
Okay, wow. Yeah, good.
Like, that would be pretty epic. I mean, that wisdom, because when you're smoking pot, you're wise as all can be. I mean, that's when the wisdom really comes out. So if, like, either the Pope or, like, Gandhi, like, you instant enlightenment.
It's true. I was thinking Jesus at first, but, now that you said the Pope, you're like, even Jesus makes sense,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we are Easter. So today is Maundy Thursday. This is kind of funny with the mental health stuff. So in the religious calendar, this is what we call, like, the manic depressive week. So you got, like, Palm Sunday, which is, like, super high, and then you got Maundy Thursday, which is, like, very anxious, and then Good Friday, which is super low, and then Easter Sunday, which is super high. So I'm thinking you've got, like, you would have to do, like, indica, sativa, to make it through this week if you were a true devout follower.
Like, get the mood done. Like, I mean, in my family, we grew up Christians, and we didn't eat meat, so maybe it's like that, It's like, keeping track of the meat, the meat mannerisms.
Very nice. I like it. Grass-fed meat, right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I eat grass-fed cow.
Good.
Happy cow.
I'm grass-fed meat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a thought.
Wow.
I never thought about that.
Sorry, I had to make a dad joke.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's what this show is all about. Make them as many as you can. That's fantastic. But no, that actually got me thinking. Okay, so let's talk a little bit of growing standards now that all this stuff is legalized. Like, you're not getting just so-and-so's, like, tomato plant version, like, Miracle Grow and pesticides sprayed on Like, now that it's legal, there's some pretty stringent organic growing practices going on.
Our weed is cleaner than baby food. It's true.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah. I have to say that pre-legalization, when I was just smoking his, hers, everybody's neighbor's weed, right? I used to get a thing called cannabis hyperemesis, which I didn't understand what it was at the time, but basically every 6 months to a couple months, I would just start vomiting uncontrollably for like weeks at a time. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. The doctors thought, oh, you have GI issues. Oh, it's migraines. Oh, it's this, it's that. No one could tell me what was wrong. And it wasn't until I actually went to a lecture at SC Labs and listened to Alec Dixon talk about neem oil, which was something that we used to spray all over our plants as an organic, fighter of mold and pests.
Yeah.
It said organic even on the bottle, but it turns out that I'm extremely allergic to it. And since I've only been smoking this regulated, cleaner than baby food weed, I haven't been sick in years. So life-changing for me. And I have to admit that I was doing that to myself. Because I used to grow those basement tomatoes and use that neem oil, which I thought was organic because it said so on the bottle. But guess what? It's poison.
And everything organic is healthy. That's why I love going into the grocery store and you go to the organic aisle and you're like, oh, these gummy bears are going to make me fantastic. Like, there's no weight gain. It's just organic refined sugar. It's still the same thing. But yeah, so there's a lot that goes into it. So you mentioned baby food. I have heard people doing CBD for babies and pets.
Babies? I don't know what to say about that.
I've not heard of I've heard of pets.
Yeah, I give it to my dogs.
All right.
They're yappy little mutts, and sometimes they're just all wound up. That CBD helps. It also helps when my dog, he has skin issues, and I'll give it to him orally and put it on his skin. It helps him heal faster and just be more comfortable. But I don't recommend THC for pets ever. CBD for pets is good. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see that being. Well, my dog. Well, you always have those corny movies where they like blow smoke in the dog's face and the. And that goes along with the song too. Is there such a thing as a contact high?
Yes, I would say so.
I feel like yeah, I think so. Especially if you're in like a hot box, like somebody's car, just filling it up with smoke. And I've had instances where I was participating, but if I hadn't been, like I had to stick my head out the door and my head out the window to breathe.
Oh my gosh!
So you could definitely be in like a car and be inhaling it, for sure.
Okay.
At the very least. Yeah.
So, and looking at more of the medical side of things once again, when you are smoking it, because you don't have filters, well, I guess some joints nowadays might very well have filters, but yeah, what's the ramifications on your lungs when you start looking at some of this stuff?
Well, I think no matter how you look at it, it is not healthy to combust plant matter and inhale it. That THC, CBD might help fight cancer, but there's a lot of other just chlorophyll and plant stuff that it's not good for you. I still do enjoy my inhaling, but it does give me a little asthma sometimes, and I accept this as part of my life because I enjoy the benefits more than the risk or downsides, I guess.
And they have like devices that you can see around now that are like filters that you put on top of just like the normal cardboard filters that you see in joints. And I don't know I haven't done much research into it as of yet, but it does look like maybe they're trying to like innovate on that, like clean smoke, and they have like vaporizers and stuff that are like electronic, and it's just like it heats it up and it's just vapor. Like it's still probably not good for you to inhale anything like oxygen, like you said. But
I actually feel like the vape pens exacerbate my asthma more than anything else that I do.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about vape pens for either nicotine, for any of that right now. It's just like, it can't really be that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's a difference between the vape pens, like the concentrates, like the dabs, or
like a cartridge.
Or like the vaporizers that sort of just heat it up and it's like vapor. Have you heard of those?
Yeah, you're going to have to explain this a little more. So this is our 101 course right here.
Good. I should be a part of this too.
Okay, so a cartridge is the way that most people would buy a vape nowadays, where it's a gram to a half gram of concentrated cannabis oil that doesn't contain any solvents. I feel like it's less whole plant, which is why I still really enjoy smoking and put up with the asthma. A vape is all those hundreds of components reduced down to maybe a dozen, if you're lucky. Sometimes it's just THC.
Yeah. Now, where did these the word terpenes come in?
Sure, terpenes, terps. Those are the smells and different flavors of all plants, right? That give it a lot of plants use terps to protect against being eaten by insects. Some of them use it to attract insects. It sort of affects you like aromatherapy, right? Like I smoke all across the spectrum, and I often match the terps to fit whatever my mood is or what's happening at the time, right? First thing in the morning, I might go for a sativa that's full of pinene because I'm off to, go on a hike or go off to, I don't smoke before work.
Yeah.
But I might be off to work, something where I want to be more active and alert. If I'm doing something like playing the guitar or painting, some artistic pursuit, I might go for something with a lot of limonene, which is like uplifting and creative, all that. But then towards the end of the night, I'm going for things a little more like linalool, which is found in lavender, which is, relaxing and sedative, right? So terps to fit your vibe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is interesting because coming from like not knowing much, probably like there's probably certain, like if you don't know what terpenes are inside the strain that you're using, and it feels really good, you might always be trying to chase that high again if you don't know what you were looking for. So it's good to know about that now, because maybe doing more research you might be able to find something that fits you better.
I actually really recommend keeping a strain journal, where here's the strain, here were the primary terps in that strain, how did I feel that day, but how was I feeling before that, and what did I do? And if you keep all this data about yourself, you might see like, oh, I really like things with, limonene because I'm really just looking to be kind of happy and like have a nice time or whatever. Or maybe like I find that these indica strains work better for me and they're full of linalool and myrcene, and it's because I'm just too worked up and I need to like calm down.
I like myrcene. It's a good one.
Yeah.
I see.
Myrcene.
Yeah, no, because that's why I'm going to have to come back in, because I've seen the general dispensaries like they've got, and it looks like this beautiful like menu of like feeling this and feeling that with hints of hibiscus and flowery, and you're just looking at it going like, oh, do I decorate with it? Do I smoke it? Oh my gosh. But I've yet to be in an outlet. So what's the difference between a dispensary and an outlet?
Well, it's basically like, have you heard of a grocery outlet before?
Yes, it's like the only place.
Yeah,
I shop.
like a wholesale or like discounted goods that you might normally see at like a store like Target or Safeway that is like $30 at a outlet store. It might be $15. So it's similar with the dispensary, like cannabis outlet.
Often that stuff that you find at the outlet, whether it's grocery outlet or our outlet, like maybe like, for example, holiday Christmas gummies, it's not Christmas anymore. It's not an appropriate time of year to sell that stuff, but it's still totally appropriate to eat. And just because we're past Christmas doesn't mean that people won't enjoy this, right?
Yeah, because cannabis doesn't really go... Does it have an expiration date?
They put expiration dates on it. Now, how relevant are those? Just like pharmaceuticals, they have to put an expiration date on it. I've had pharmacists say, oh, this period's 3 years expired, I'm still taking it because this expiration date is meaningless. Well, with cannabis, THC will eventually degrade a little bit into CBN, which is going to give you more of an indica effect. But, it's that being said, if it expired a month ago, it's great. Yeah.
Oh, man. I think half my cabinet is expired a month ago, and that's the good stuff.
Yeah.
That's the good half.
Yeah.
The bad half is, we won't go into that. So, interesting. And then the other one I kind of had a question about is people are talking wax. So what exactly is wax?
Wax. So Wax is an extract of cannabis. That dab pen that you mentioned that you were surprised by probably had wax in it. They're usually using like butane or propane to basically extract terpenes and THC from the flower. It produces a product that's very concentrated. That's my favorite method because, I've mentioned that I have asthma. I find that it affects me least, but gives me the full spectrum effect because a lot of those terpenes, they become a little more concentrated there, right? So, like, I'm not really going after THC high. I'm going after the different strain-specific effects, and so I find that I can get there better with the wax. But it can be really intense. I remember my first dab of wax, it was like being high for the first time all over again. I felt panicky. I was just like, whoa, what is happening? Sadly went for a drive because I had to leave shortly afterwards and was driving around the same neighborhood in circles for a while because I just didn't know what the hell was going on. I don't recommend that.
So
I should have just parked.
Wax is like the grain alcohol of the cannabis industry.
Yes.
Kind of.
Concentrated.
Except I always like to say, a distillate vape pen, which is just pretty much a THC vape pen, is like vodka, and, smoking flower is like your craft beer.
Ah, very nice. I like that. Well, cool. We're almost done, but you're listening to KSQD 90.7, and this is our talk on self-medication with the lovely crew of the Hook Cannabis Outlet. Okay, so I have one question on a personal note. I bought what was supposed to be a straight CBD pen, and it was a high-end one. And I took a big hit of it, and I think I was high. Was this a placebo thing, or can you actually get high from CBD?
It can change your perception, and I think if you took a big enough rip that would be such a sudden change that, you could feel high.
I've definitely experienced that. Separately, CBD was actually legal in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, so sometimes we would get CBD cigarettes, and I don't know, I felt not high, but my body was high. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, it wasn't the exact same as but
not as intense, but something. You can feel a little tingle.
But yeah, I definitely felt, I was wandering a little bit. So that was interesting. Well, we've got a couple minutes left. I was gonna see. What's the edible kind of thing? That's the new one to a lot of people that were usually back in the old Grateful Dead days. So are the edibles the same as the indica, the sativa, all that kind of stuff?
They make indica and sativa edibles. I am a little dubious that they affect you in quite the same way as smoking. It's not as full of an effect. I do have to say that with edibles, it converts in your body to a substance that's a little more psychoactive, and I don't want to say hallucinogenic because it's not going to make you see colors, but it's going to hit you in a different way. So a lot of people are reaching for edibles for their first time use or their first time after a long time, thinking this is going to be a mellow way to get into it. I don't want to smoke, I don't want to hack, but they're in for a much stronger experience. Because when you smoke it, you're not getting as much of the effect as when it goes into your body and your liver. And
now, how long does it take for an edible to really hit you?
Depends on what you ate. Up to 2 hours, sometimes longer.
Yeah, I've had longer, 4 hours, where I'm just this is weird, and then all of a sudden I'm whoa.
Seriously, okay.
And that's why I really recommend the tinctures, is because you're not putting it into your belly, you're absorbing it kind of in your mouth, and it's going to be more like 15 to 20 minutes. It's a lot easier to self-medicate and predict what's going to happen to you.
Yeah. Now, is there a difference too between, so somebody was trying to explain to me a fat versus a sugar. Does that matter? If I were to eat a chocolate bar versus a gummy?
THC is fat soluble, and it is really good if you have a little bit of fat in your belly to help that disperse. One thing that's available out there is THC capsules, which are really convenient, especially, on the go or whatever, right? It's very portable. It's very discreet. It looks like a vitamin E capsule, but what you're doing is essentially putting a giant glob of oil into your stomach, and if it doesn't have anything to help it release, and it's just going to stay in the glob because your stomach is full of water and it's oil, so it's going to hold together in a nice little packet, and you're not going to experience all of it.
Okay, and then and looking at somebody that might have tried this self-medication thing but mixed up their dosage a little bit, what do you do when all of a sudden you realize you did too much?
Breathe.
Yeah. Breathe.
Start breathing. Counting helps.
Eating helps. Drinking water helps. I would say just go somewhere where you're comfortable. Yep. And if you have CBD available to you, CBD can actually counteract a lot of that panic that comes with THC for some people and give you a feeling of well-being. And so what I always, I'd have like someone, oh, my friend gets too high, I'm getting CBD for them. I'm like, give them this and tell them it's going to be okay. Because it is going to be okay. It's just it's going to be over in an hour or a couple hours. So just wait it out, take a nap, eat some food, enjoy the munchies. Watch a good movie. You'll be fine.
Radisson Hotel.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think my problem is I've got a tinge of OCD, so to give up control is like super, super panic inducing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, yes, I'm very similar sometimes. So sometimes it is hard to let go, but once you let go, that's usually when you start to calm down a little bit.
Well, I think that goes back to intention. It's like before you do this, it's like if you're doing this for medical reasons, like you go into it going like, okay, I'm going to let go. Like letting go is what I need to do right now. So great stuff, you guys. Well, we are pretty much out of time, but where do people find you? Do you have a website going?
Yeah, you can find us on thehookoutlet.com. We're pretty popping on Instagram, at The Hook Outlet on Instagram, Twitter, everything, Facebook. You can find us on all the social medias.
Nice. Okay. Is there any 420 celebrations going on in Santa Cruz that you'd recommend? What are you guys doing for 420, just personally?
Working.
Yeah, that's probably
working.
420 is not fun if you're... Well, no, it is fun. But it's a lot of work in the industry.
Well, that's like me and a minister on Easter.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, we are planning to go downtown and do a little filming, so you might see a YouTube video if you check out our YouTube too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, you guys. So, imbibe in your 420 celebratory substances in an intentional, safe way, and stop in and pick these guys' brains if you still want to learn more. They're pretty nice people. Give them the thumbs up. So. Closeout question: what is your favorite activity to do after smoking?
I love playing guitar, classical guitar. Just lose my mind. It's all in the hands.
I wish we had one here.
Yeah, I would say playing guitar or going for a hike.
Video games.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Well, those are therapeutic things in themselves. So once again, this is the Kooky Side of Crazy. I am closing up shop with Jurij and Stephanie from the Hook Cannabis Outlet, and we will see you in 2 Thursdays from now. So Sign off, my Kooky friends.
Thank you, Ryan and guests, and see you in a couple weeks. Stay tuned in 4 minutes for Jazz Tracks with Bill and Irene. Their turn this month, right after the Santa Cruz Naturalist.
Noreen.